Hello and welcome to part 8 of the AVR 602 demonstration series. Today we're going to talk about what's covered in chapter 9, which is unlocking the power of render pipelines. So what exactly is a render pipeline? It's a set of instructions that dictate how the graphics in a Unity scene are processed and displayed to the user. So there's several types of pipelines. There's a built-in renderer pipeline, a high-definition renderer pipeline, and a universal renderer pipeline that each have their own pros and cons depending on your application. And choosing these pipelines is very significant because it determines how well your game will perform on certain platforms or devices, etc. As I've mentioned, the ability to process graphics is very important in terms of the speed of your game as well as the quality visually of it. So if you choose the wrong render pipeline, you may end up sacrificing your frame rate or just lowering the visual quality and therefore lowering the immersion of your game. So Unity actually has a scriptable render pipeline, which is a powerful tool that allows developers to make custom render pipelines that are tailored towards a specific application or project. Some key features it has is customizability, which allows you to customize the rendering pipeline as you can make shaders or rendering algorithms. That level of customization allows for better optimization and performance. You also have an improved performance SRP, which is designed to help developers improve by allowing them to create customized and more effective rendering solutions for their experiences, and can be optimized for certain VR hardware or headset devices, leading to better frame rates and overall performance. You also have enhanced visual quality, which is for things like special visual effects, advanced features like volumetric lighting, real-time shadow movement, and global illumination. And you also have better workflows, which is designed to improve, as it mentions, workflows, which reduces the amount of development time. So it depends on kind of the time constraints you have in order to design your project, your frame rate or performance, or you're looking for something that is higher on the visual quality scale. So again, SRP stands for the scriptable render pipeline. Unity allows you to use custom render pipelines. It also has its own built-in render pipeline or an HD render pipeline, etc. So they're mainly responsible for culling, lighting, shadows, reflections, illuminations, and post-processing effects, kind of like what we went over in the lighting chapter. It also supports physically based rendering, which is an advanced lighting for reflections, fog, post-processing, and ray tracing, things like that. So for the lower end headsets, like the Oculus Quest, the Unity or built-in render pipeline is pretty good because it's lightweight and performance-based. Whereas if you have a higher end headset like a Valve Index, you may want to use one of the higher quality visual render pipelines. So let's go ahead and explore some of these features. So I can go back to my scenes folder. So let's go ahead and just select all of the folders that we've been making scenes in, which the book decides to go from chapter 4 to 8. So let's just do that, and I'll right click, click export package, export, and then we can just name it as built-in demo and save it. I chose to save it in my Unity folder. You can save it wherever it's convenient. So now that we've done this, we can go ahead and make a new project and we'll import that package into it. So I can close this and I have my Unity hub open already. I can select a new project to create. I'm going to make a new project. I'll just use my version and go to, let's pick one of the 3D URP templates. The one in the book just says 3D, and that's it, which doesn't happen to be present in any of these, so I'll just try the 3D cross-platform URP. So I'll click on this one. I don't have it installed, so I'm going to have to go ahead and click download template and let that download. Now I'm going to name it as URP, Unity Rendering Pipeline, underscore VR project. So now that this project has been set up, you can see we already have this URP empty template in the inspector. But what we want to do is we want to go to the package manager. We go to Windows and Package Manager. I'm going to go to the Unity registry, in my Unity registry here. and I'll go to XR plugin management. So we have to install the XR stuff again. So I'll go to XR plugin management, click install. Once that's done, we're gonna have to get the sample as well, and also the XR interaction toolkit. Once this is done installing, we're gonna be asked to restart our project. So we're gonna go ahead and click yes, which will restart the editor. Once that's done, we're also gonna install the polybrush package that we had. Once this has been installed, we'll also get the shader examples sample, and we're using URP, so we should go with that one. Import. And if you look in this, it'll give us some examples here. Lit texture blend. This essentially combines all of these shaders for us, which gets finally rendered. This kind of determines how over here. You have all of these different albedo textures combining. I can go ahead and just close this though. I'm not going to edit it right now. While we're here, we're also going to install ProBuilder again. And you're also asked to install this universal render pipeline support. I'm going to also install the samples for this. Now that that's done, I'm going to close this and go to my project settings under Edit, Project Settings, which will open this window again. And if I go to Quality here, I can set the quality to medium if I'm on a low-end device, or ultra-high for a higher-end device. You have performance, balanced, high fidelity, and you can change these as you want. But for now, I'll just pick the medium one. Actually, you can see I've performant for a dedicated server, balance for Android. I'm on PC. Android is for standalone Oculus, but I'm running this on my computer, so I'll stick to the high fidelity actually. I actually already have this set as URP high fidelity. This should be set as URP high fidelity universal render pipeline asset. With this real-time reflection probes checked 1 every V blank. And down here in XR plugin management, I'm going to go through this process similar to what I did in the first demo. I'm going to click Open XR, let that load. I can go ahead and just fix all these, click Fix. Under this Android tab, you'll also want to select Oculus, as well as OpenXR. Or if you're not using standalone, you can choose OpenXR, but it doesn't necessarily matter. I have OpenXR on the PC, Mac, Linux, and Windows. But what you want to do is go to this OpenXR area and click under the Android tab here. So in this example project we've made, we'll also have this global volume game object. This takes place in the post-processing stack that we would have downloaded for the original project using the built-in render pipeline. It's used to apply post-processing effects globally to the entire scene. So if you remember, we did some experimentation with post-processing in a previous chapter, which talked about things like changing the vignette, bloom, tone mapping, all of that stuff. And we can actually import our demo package by going to Import Custom Package. If I go to Assets, Import Package, Custom Package, this is where I'm going to download that built-in demo that I had earlier. So I type in built-in demo, my Unity package is here, and now I can go ahead and install it. But I may want to make sure that I'm actually at my Assets folder, just so I make sure it doesn't install somewhere it doesn't need to be. So Import Package, Custom Package, and that built-in demo that I saved as an exported package earlier. So now this will install all of those scenes that I had from the previous chapters 4 through 8. So here's everything. Here's all the assets that we created, all these materials that we made in chapter, I think the 3rd demo. Our scripts are here. So I could just go ahead and click import. So now I have all my assets from the previous demos. Now remember, I made this demo room scene from earlier. And when I open it, the entire thing is pink. And that's because it doesn't have any kind of textures applied to them currently that are functioning. I still have them here, like vertex paint and things like that, but they're not rendering for me yet. So this is done when there's some kind of shader reference error. and it makes it easy to identify when there are materials that are not compatible with the current render pipeline. Fortunately, it's not too hard to fix this. I can just go to my materials tab. So here's all my materials right now, or my materials folder. They're all pink right now. So if I just select the ones that are incorporated right now, there's more than this, but I can right click. So I can select all of these, open the edit menu up here, and go to rendering down at the bottom here, and go to materials and convert selected built-in materials to URP, and click proceed. So all of these will be functioning. So I need to go into my other materials here and do the same process. So edit, rendering, materials, convert, proceed. And the same for chapter 4. Select all these, edit, rendering, materials, convert. Now, our scene should look the same as it did originally. It looks like there's some materials that are still missing. If we don't know where to find those, we could just double click. You just right click here and select the material. That'll select it here. Looks like it didn't show up. Looks like it's having a hard time with this one, so maybe I'll have to give it something else. Well, it was a pretty dark color last time, so I could just give it a white. It's fine, I don't really mind. All of our little cups and food also have their own materials that look like they didn't show up properly. Go to the food pack demo and go to materials. This base color, I can go ahead and edit that one. So now all of these show up properly because this texture was actually used on all of these. They were probably just given different UV maps, which dictates which part of this material or image to kind of graft onto the shapes. As for these, they have children which have the material, so we could select this. Where is that? Doesn't really tell me where it is. That's fine. I will just go ahead and reapply a different material. I believe these were purple, same as the teleport area. So let's just go ahead and apply it on all of them. Okay. Now I have something that resembles what we had in the previous demo, but now on our new rendering pipeline. Oh, don't forget our hands. It's also missing, its material is also not compatible currently. Which, for some reason, it hasn't taken the hand material we made already. We can go ahead and just apply those. You just drag it on the stylized hand. Now, the book goes through a very similar process with the high definition render pipeline. It's essentially the same process of creating your project, so I won't really spend much time going into it. But if you were to make a new project, you have some options here. 3D high-end HDRP. So what you would do is create a new project just like this, using this download template with whatever editor version supports this. Create a new project. And if you go through the book, it discusses using a HDRP plus VR tab you'll have in the HDRP window, where you'll select Fix All, and that will remove any kind of red error icons. And as I mentioned, you'll go through a similar process where you go to your project settings, open the XR plugin management, setting all of your interaction profiles. Same thing for the Android tab, selecting MetaQuest support. If you have any confusion on those, you can go back and look at my very first tutorial for chapter 2. And you can just select Fix All to get rid of any errors. Import our package as we did with this example, etc. Now, if you remember from our earlier demonstrations, we integrated some post-processing for our lighting. So those actually won't work anymore. It says the associated script cannot be loaded. Please fix any compile errors. And the same thing with our local post-processing volume. So you would actually have to create a new one. So I would have to install post-processing again. And now they actually function again. So whenever you create a new post-processing profile for this, you can select Add Override to choose whatever effects you want to imply using the new rendering pipeline. While it's usually better to just go ahead and make a project from scratch like we did with the new rendering pipeline, you can take an existing project and convert it directly. But the thing is, it's going to have some potential compatibility issues, inefficient assets, and things like that. But what I can do is go to the package manager. I go to Windows, package manager. There is in the registry package, and it's called Universal. It's called Universal RP. That's the one we installed earlier, the render pipeline. Go ahead and click install. Okay, so once that's done, what you can do is close this. And in the Projects tab, over here, we can create a new folder and call it Pipeline Assets. So we can create a new folder, Pipeline Assets. And then we'll create a new URP asset. So we go to create. It's a bit tricky to find. I actually have to right click, go to create, and we've installed so many things. I actually have to click this little down arrow here. And here it says rendering. Rendering right here. I can go to URP asset. Let's pick the one with the universal renderer. So we have the asset and we have the asset renderer. So we also want to click global settings asset and add that as well. And then we can go into our project settings and click on graphics. Under here, we have scriptable render pipeline settings. We can go ahead and choose that asset that we just created here. And the thing is, it says may take a significant amount of time. Hit continue. And when I do that, it will convert all materials into the URP materials. If you wanted to convert this with an HD render pipeline, you would install high definition RP instead of universal IRP in the package manager and follow an HDRP wizard. So as you can see, everything is pink again. We'd have to update all the materials like we did last time. But for now, I'll undo this. So as I mentioned, it's usually better to just start a new project from scratch and then import the assets into URP or HDRP rather than converting an already made project into those pipelines. It can lead to complicated issues, just incompatibility, inefficient assets, and workflow inefficiencies. So it's just better to start a new project and go through that other method I mentioned overall. So render pipelines kind of provide that finishing touch, kind of like the post-processing. It's the backbone of creating high-performance, stunning VR experiences, and choosing the right pipeline is essential to achieve optimal performance for the device that you plan on your users using. So that pretty much goes over everything in terms of the fundamentals in these first, I think it was 9 chapters. This is chapter 9. So we talked about being able to create a Unity project from scratch, installing the XR toolkit, setting up pretty much everything in order to obtain our inputs and interact with a head-mounted display. Then we also talked about things like setting up prefabs, making assets, creating scenes. We talked about the physics engine, using rigid bodies, making our own scripts, creating animations, lighting, sound, everything you pretty much need to get started or create a complete project. The rest of the book goes over topics that pretty much take everything we've learned and put them together. So that's something that is a bit more advanced. I may or may not continue providing tutorials on those topics in the near future, but I hope to keep you updated and hopefully see you in the next one.